Alright class, today we're going to talk about documentation. This is chapter 4 in your book. You can find this on page 69 if you're on the 12th edition of Pre-Hospital Emergency Medicine. This is a pretty short chapter. We're going to kind of talk about some stuff that is in your textbook, and then afterwards we're going to show you kind of like an example of like a real PCR and what we use in today's world. So as far as what is documentation for us and what does it entail? Mainly in EMS we think of PCR. This is a patient care report. So every time we run any kind of call, even if we don't see a patient, even if we don't make contact, we don't transport, if we transport, we always fill out a patient care report for each patient that we saw. And some of the reasons why we use PCRs, your book kind of mentions these 5 different reasons, although there are lots of different reasons for using PCRs. They're very beneficial. So looking up here like continuality of patient care. So this is a track record of your patient. What did you get dispatched to? What happened on the way to the patient? What happened while you're there? What was the treatment? What was the extrication? How was the transport? It's just a whole narrative of everything that happened. And so this helps us to pass along this information to whoever wants it on down the road, whether it be a nurse or be a doctor, or it be a facility this patient got transferred to or something like that. Administrative uses, I'm not an expert in this, I'm not an administrator, but this is also how they use billing. That's how you bill the patients and charge them for whatever service they received. Administrators also use it to calculate different kinds of numbers, depending on like call volumes and what their need is for the community and that sort of stuff. Coming over to like a legal document, this is where this is really important for you all. So think about like a patient care report. Anything that you write in there, you should look at it as like, if it got projected on the big screen on like Channel 6 News down in Denver or something, everybody saw it. How do you feel about your patient care report? That's the way you should look at everything. So whenever you hit that submit button, whenever you're done, before you submit it on up the line, like think about it being on Channel 6 News. Some of the big things I like to tell students about for this is keep your opinions out of things. We talked about subjective and objective findings, or we will in chapter 11, patient assessment chapter. Let's try to keep most of the stuff in our PCRs is objective. Subjective is something that's going to put our opinion into stuff. So, or the patient's opinion or bystander's opinion. We try to keep those out of PCRs the best that we can. It's like a little gray area that could get you in some trouble. So kind of look at these. They are legal documents. If you have to go to court, these are going to get pulled back up. Everything you did in here will be pulled back up. I know one thing, like a little thing that I do is I don't document my vital signs in 2 different places. I just put them in one place. Because if I put them in 2 different places, that gives me the opportunity to say like systolic blood pressure is 142, and then another place I say 144, and then some lawyer picks that apart that I have inconsistencies in my report. So just kind of be aware of stuff like that when you're filling these out. Education and research, I mean, yeah, PCRs is a document of everything that happened with the patient. We do case reviews pretty often in the community. I think probably all communities do. But this kind of helps us to reflect back on the call that just took place, what we did, what we could improve upon. Kind of like we can find some of our weaknesses in places where we need some education, we need some practice, that sort of stuff. And also they use this documentation for research and whatnot. So the PCRs are really important. This kind of falls a little bit redundant, I feel like, but evaluation and education, evaluation, quality improvement. So every PCR agencies, EMS agencies, they get reviewed. Somebody in every agency reviews all these PCRs, and they go through these. And nowadays they're all electronic, at least in the state of Colorado. I'll show you one of these later on. Your textbook is kind of like an archaic age of documentation. We don't really do this stuff that it talks about because it's all kind of electronic and it's overseen by the states. At least it is in Colorado, so we'll give you an example of one of those later on. If there are big calls, it usually gets reviewed by your medical director. The doctor will look at it. Oftentimes, if there's something big that we could improve upon or they make a mistake on, they'll come back and talk to us about this. Also, something we started doing, I think we may be the only EMS agency right now that I know of, is wearing body cameras, which I think is a really good thing. Helps us to There's no he said, she said type stuff. It's just kind of like watch a body camera and see what happens. That really helps us to have some kind of evaluation, quality improvement, because it's a video of everything that happened and not just someone's written narrative. So I think we'll see more and more body cameras coming into play here as we go along in the future. All right, so legal concerns for you all. We've talked about HIPAA already, confidentiality, all right? Everything that goes in the PCR should be submitted. Any documents you have, whether it be a face sheet or anything with the patient's name, identification, any way someone can identify this patient, needs to be shredded, disposed of. And we need to keep everything quiet with our patients. If any kind of healthcare provider or any person isn't involved in this patient's care, then we should not be talking to these people about that person's care. There are exceptions if it's your supervisor or something like that. It's okay to talk about your supervisor, but we really need to keep people's identity confidential. Some of the medical stuff that happens to people is embarrassing, or they just simply don't want people to know. We need to respect that. They also use this for distribution, and then this is the big one comes about is refusal of treatment. Refusal of treatment, it's really fun to stick a bunch of doctors in a room, a bunch of paramedics in a room, and let them talk about patient refusals. They'll be there for days. In a nutshell, this is a gray area in medicine. And what I'll tell you all from my experience is if you have a patient refusal, you need to explain why you want the patient to go to the hospital, why you think they should go, explain to them what could happen, what could potentially happen if they don't go, and then you need to get them to sign saying that you did try to get them to go and everything that you told them. And then if you can't get a witness, and your best witness is gonna be who? Not your partner, because they're always gonna try to protect you. Your best witness is going to be probably a bystander, or even better yet, one of the patient's like family members or friends or someone else that's there. Like I said, got a body camera, it kind of like all covers the spaces anyway. Come down to falsification. We don't see this as much anymore with electronic reports. So the kind of way these electronic reports go is by the end of your shift, you should submit all of your PCRs. Don't wait. Some companies have mandatory times for you to finish your PCRs. I know, I'm just thinking of like a busy day I had one day on the ambulance. I was running for about 13 hours and had eight ALS patients, 8 critical patients. And it was just slamming all day. The hospital is busy, the ambulance is busy, and it was like 9:30 at night. I went and got pizza for everybody in the whole ER, and I sat down at the table and I had 8 reports all laid out and organized, and I couldn't hardly remember one from another, and that was all on the same day. I was picking up the second patient, I was like, I don't even remember what we went to for this patient. More or less what happened. So filling these things out as quickly as possible and submitting them is a really good thing to do. Whenever they do, someone at the agency reads over these, they usually pick out your errors. I have errors all the time. Most of my errors are usually like whether I categorize it as ALS level 1 or level 2 or BLS, or how a patient was transported. But they will catch these and they'll send you an email, electronic email, that way it's tracked, and it'll say, hey Jeremy, you need to fix this on your PCR, and they document exactly what it is. Then when I get on there and I change it, the computer keeps a record of me being on there, what I changed, what the date was, and that sort of stuff. Used to talk about like, make one line through whatever you're changing it and then initial by it. It's kind of old rule of thumb, but now everything's kind of electronic. So anyway, correcting errors. Moving on over, this was kind of a documentation chapter, is special reporting. Special reporting is different from state to state, different from region to region. So just know what your mandatory reporting is for the agency you're working for. Some kind of common stuff is talking about abuse. Abuse we talk about for pediatrics and geriatrics. Oddly, we're not really required to report abuse for the middle-aged population. Other stuff is like critical burns are pretty common, mandatory reporting, almost all gunshots. Your book didn't mention this, but like dog bites, any kind of animal bites are usually mandatory reporting. Anytime an EMS crew member gets injured, you have to document that. Anytime you wreck or bend or break or dent an ambulance, that has to be recorded also. And typically like any kind of exposures type stuff needs to be reported also. And this is by no means all inclusive. It's just kind of throwing some things out there to give you an idea of stuff that might be mandatory reporting in your geographical area. All right, I'm gonna flip over here. So When you're talking about PCRs, probably the biggest thing that people look at is your narrative. And the narrative is writing a story. It's telling the story about what happened from your perspective of view. There's lots of different ways of doing this. Your book mentions these 3 different ways right here. SOAP is probably one of the things I see most widely used. I personally don't like it that well. I think it's very hard to paint a picture. What I'm telling you all as my students is I want you all to, whenever you write a narrative about what happened, is any Joe Blow off the street should be able to pick up your paper, read your narrative, and they should be able to put themselves on that scene and know exactly what took place. That's what a good narrative is. I don't care if you use SOAP, I don't care if you use chart, I don't care if you use cheating, I don't care if you use another method. But people need to be able to pick that up and be able to completely understand what happened on the scene. Kind of what these stand for is SOAP is subjective, so subjective evidence. O, objective, objective evidence. A, assessment plan. What are you going to do with it? Wilderness medicine tends to use SOAP almost across the board. I know out of paramedic school I started using chart because I liked it a little better. It's chief complaint, history, assessment of your patient, treatment, what you did to your patient, and then transport. I kind of like this a little bit better because it fell in like a timeline. I'm a timeline type person. One that I've never used is cheated. It's chief complaint, history, exam, assessment, treatment, evaluation, and disposition. For me, what I usually do is I just tell a straight narrative. I'm like, I was located at this place. I got dispatched to XYZ kind of call. We went and route lights and sirens from this place. We arrived at the place with the place of the residents without complications, and then you just kind of talk about things as they went. So for me, it's like a story. It's easier to understand, it's easier to write, and that's the way I've kind of written all my narratives. On Canvas, if you are taking my class, you'll see an example of a PCR that I've written for one of my patients with all the identifying stuff taken out of it. So you can kind of take a look at that and see how I write mine. I would say for you all, pick you a system, stick with it. Alright, after that, I will show you all an example of the PCR. The state of Colorado, I think currently it was 2. I think they're okay with 3 different companies for PCRs, and the state oversees all these. They can pull up any of my PCRs anytime they want. So next, I'll show you an example of one that our company